Good morning. On this week's episode of Haston Helping Hands, I'm going to talk to you about imposter syndrome. So, for years, I think I've approached this the wrong way. First, I should define imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is when you feel like you snuck in the back door, you don't belong, somebody's going to find you out, they're going to tap you on the shoulder and say, "No, Miss Haston, you're not welcome here. We made a mistake, you don't qualify, you're not supposed to be here." And I wish I could tell you that I have battled this back and fixed it. But the truth is that I think my approach to this has been wrong. Even as early as last year, I said, imposter syndrome is a bully, kick it out. In fact, when I was typing up this post, I thought, I wonder if I'm spelling imposter right. Gosh, I feel, and just all of the things started popping up. And a lot of people have talked about this. Probably the most famous is Amy Cuddy, and who has done a TED Talk, which is fantastic, about the imposter syndrome and how to do things for it. But I've been thinking a lot about this, and I think something I saw last week on the internet is that whenever you have a bout of ADHD or a mental syndrome that has been diagnosed, like borderline personality or one of those disorders, name it. Instead of saying my ADHD is acting up or my syndrome, I'm having depressive episode, say, whatever name feels right to you, say, this is what's happening. So for ease of use, I'm going to call my imposter syndrome Isabel or Isaac, or they. And I think that the biggest takeaway for me that I'm realizing with this idea is that if a New York Times bestselling author, Jon Acuff, is about to publish his 7th book and still feeling imposter syndrome, I think it's, like he says, it's good evidence that it's not something to get over, but rather something to work through. And I have a different idea about approaching this. So for me, if imposter syndrome shows up, and by the way, it can happen at any time, anywhere, job interview, being a mom, being a wife, in a friend moment, you can feel imposter syndrome. Mostly it shows up when you're doing important things, when you're being vulnerable, when you're being authentic. And I think that my approach has been wrong. I said imposter syndrome is a bully, kick it out. And I think it's probably better to invite it in and embrace it. And I'm going to tell you why. Because what happens when you embrace something is, oh, hi, Isabel. Hi, Isaac. Come on in. You're here. You're sitting in my living room. We're having this conversation about 8 months ago, right before a really important job interview. I asked several people what made me awesome, because imposter syndrome was real. It was big. It was taking over all of my space. And I was extremely humbled to ask that question, why am I awesome? To people that I have worked for, people who have worked for me, and people who are my friends, and even people who are my family of choice. And I was amazed at the answers that I got. And I made a list and I recorded it. And I'm going to encourage you to do the same thing, because that way you have this list. I also have affirmations that I do every day. Affirmations don't work for everybody. For me, they really, really work. And so when imposter syndrome shows up, rejoice, because first of all, if imposter syndrome shows up, it means you're doing something right. It means that you're on the path to doing something that matters, and that you're breathing in and out, and that you're alive, and you have stakes in the game. So imposter syndrome's here. Hello, come in, sit down. And then this list of all the things that make you awesome are on this side. Say, hey, I'm glad you're here, because it means that I'm up to important things. Let me tell you about some important things I've done in the past. I've done this, I've done this, and I've done this. And it could be things that just make you proud. Like you had a fantastic cooking experience, like I did. I successfully made cake balls, and over and over again. It's a talent of mine. I'm very good with encouraging people. This is something that I know how to do. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that I do belong here. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that these are the things that make me qualified to be here, to be at this job. And they won't have anything to say, so they'll walk away. And I think that's the goal. instead of kicking imposter syndrome out, work your way through it and start with, you're here. Acknowledge that they're there. And then say, these are all the reasons that I belong. So ladies and gentlemen, that is my message for the week. This has been Haston Helping Hands, and I'm Jen Haston. Please like, subscribe, and share. Make sure you hit that bell to make sure to not miss any of my posts. I usually do this post on Wednesday mornings. And I will tell you that in preparing this post, I felt a lot of imposter syndrome to talk about it because there are legions of articles and experts talking about it. That doesn't mean you don't need my take. So I thought I would welcome in Irish or welcome in Isabel or Isaac, whatever feels right to you. I encourage you, name your imposter syndrome, welcome them in, embrace them to walk through it. And there have been several of my friends this week, you know who you are, but I'm not going to name any names, who've talked about this. And they are incredibly qualified people. They are mad talented. And it always amazes me how even the most qualified, even the most storied, award-winning people still go through this. So universally accepted. So check it out, read about it, and then I encourage you, go ask people why you're awesome, and then retain that list for when you're feeling imposter syndrome, whenever Isaac or Isabel shows up, or whatever you choose to name it, and think about it as you walk through your day. Go ahead and share, subscribe, and like. I hope this inspired you. I hope it motivated, and I hope that it frustrated you too, because real change only comes through growth. Thanks, y'all.